husband was Donald Guy. He joined the U.S. Marines December of 1950. His parents drove him from Cincinnati, where he was born, to Camp Lejeune to join the Marines.
We're being trained to fight, if necessary, to defend our way of life. That's the answer.
They shipped him all around, but then they came up running these tests in Nevada.
To teach soldiers of the United States Army exactly what atomic weapons can and cannot do, and thereby allay any unreasonable fears of the A-bomb, a series of atomic experiments have been held in the barren lands of Nevada during the past several years.
He didn't ask to go. He didn't want to go. He didn't know where he was going. All he knew that he was going on a mission, and that was the mission. They're not supposed to tell nobody what they seen or what they done. They can get in trouble. I mean, they swear you to secrecy. And I couldn't understand that. I said, well, Don, why did they do that? He said, because what they were doing when nobody was safe, and they said radiation was safe, but radiation is not safe.
Finally, if you receive enough gamma radiation to cause sterility or severe sickness, you'll be killed by blast, flying debris, or heat anyway. Well, that's the story. Don't worry about yourselves. As far as the test is concerned, you'll be okay.
I know that he had a place of business, and I went to work. I was his bookkeeper. That's how I met him. And I noticed that he was in pain, but I didn't know what, and I knew that he was drinking. And that drinking and me didn't get along. So I made arrangements to get him to a doctor. I said, now, if you don't go to the doctor Friday, I'm walking out of this building and I'm going back to work at the seafood house. So he went to the doctor. I made a sign, put it on the door that we'd be closed that Friday. And we went to Duke, and he seen the doctor. And when he come out, Don was crying. And the doctor told me that if I were in the shape that he was in, I would probably be drinking too. But he told Don that he had to quit drinking or it was going to kill him. And that's when he quit drinking. He had melanoma and skin cancer. He had both. But then when they was telling me that he had a vascular necrosis, and I thought, okay, explain it to me in my terms. And he told me what it was. It was death of the bones. Don, taking it easy.
This is my prison.
He didn't even like to talk about it. He did not even like to talk about it. But I was beginning to lose my patience. Every lawyer I would go to, they couldn't help you. Couldn't get anywhere. And finally, someone told me about, I can't get that name, never get that name right, Kabachinek, whatever. But somebody told me about him.
The VA General Counsel's office, the team I was on, it's nothing to be proud of. We would rely on those artificially low dose estimates to deny the claim. Not caring about the plight of the veteran, not caring about the plight of the widow, not caring about the plight of the spouse who may still be alive, not caring about the fact that the veteran could not afford to get the evidence to rebut those artificially low dose estimates that came from the Defense Nuclear Threat Reduction Agency.
It's still December the 24th, Christmas Eve night. Well, he got to the point that he just couldn't get around by himself. And he was the type of person, he didn't want anybody to feel sorry for him.
The challenge is oftentimes trying to get diseases that are not specifically outlined in the statute to be recognized.
The problem is that the VA has only about 20 presumed illnesses. If you have this illness and you could show you were involved in activity related to radioactive testing, you get service connection. But if you don't have one of the presumed disabilities, you've got to produce your own medical evidence.
The National Academy of Sciences reviewed the way in which the Defense Threat Reduction Agency was calculating the veterans' dose and found it to be fairly problematic.
Mr. Guy's claim, they came to me when I was in private practice. And I represented him for several years before the hearing where we successfully overturned the BVA decision. He got denied, because he suffered from avascular necrosis.
There is scientific literature linking avascular necrosis or bone death to radiation exposure. That is something that the VA wasn't able or hasn't recognized.
Get on out there.
This widow came from the eastern part of North Carolina, near Camp Lejeune and Camp Geiger. And they didn't have the means to get an expert witness, but we had one in the clinic, Dr. Fitzsimmons. And she testified that the ionized radioactive particles gathered in Mr. Guy's hips, leading to multiple hip replacements, 9 surgeries, I believe. And it was the first time I've ever seen, but they granted service connection for avascular necrosis, which is a non-presumed disability under even the current rules.
I said this is my prison.
She was able to prove that there was a link between the condition of Donald Guy, who tragically died less than a month after he was awarded benefits, after a very lengthy battle with the VA. And the VA showed no compassion to the fact that the Guys, Mary Guy and her husband Donald, were suffering from a lack of income and extreme poverty, a lack of pension or compensation for disability benefits. And the accrued benefits, those are the back benefits, which he should have won. They never paid to Mary Guy.
Now when you get around just going up that hill, not where that red car's coming in, but straight up the other way. That's the way I go. You can go either way, but I always take this way. I have a hole in my back and it won't get well. I've had like 7 surgeries trying to get it well. And if you bump it or at least a little thing, it just flares up again. But John Hopkins told me that this is all they can do. Oh, heck. It didn't go in the floor. I have a hard time doing this every day by myself. You have, like I say, I have good days and I have bad days. But my medical expenses the first 7 months last year was over $1 million, and I can show them to you. was over $1 million, and I didn't stutter. You think I could pay it? No, I couldn't. I thought they were going to cancel out my insurance, but they didn't. When you live by yourself and you don't have nobody around to help you, it's not an easy road. I can tell you that. Because I sure didn't want to sell my house and move up here, but I had no choice. I knew that I couldn't keep on paying out what I was paying out a month. Taxes, insurance, and having to ride back and forth. And when my health got like it is now, I didn't get anything out of it. I practically just gave it away because I knew that I had to do something, the shape I was getting into. Got a lot of memories in there. I miss it, but I wouldn't want to stay back here again without my husband being here. I'm sitting on the porch. He's tired. He's been in a hard day.
Never believe that.
The government's not going to admit they did anything wrong because there's too many of them. There's a lot of them that's died off from it already. Don's not the only one.
If you were driving from Los Angeles to Salt Lake City on U.S. Highway 91, you'd pass through St. George, Utah, just a short way from the Nevada test site 140 miles to the west.
What happened in the St. George, Utah case, they called it a dirty blast. Why was it a dirty blast? Because a lot of particulates came up into the clouds and then they move, and all radio fallout moves according to the jet stream. In this instance, it got caught up with a thunderstorm, and there was a wind shear which brought the radioactive material straight onto the town.
This is now 25 years later, but so many cases of cancer have developed right around me.
People like Irma Thomas, her neighbors began to drop off with various types of cancer, and she became concerned and kind of led the movement.
Word has just been received from the Atomic Energy Commission that due to a change in wind direction, the residue from this morning's atomic detonation is drifting in the direction of St. George.
There was very little information, and the government was sending out information telling people that they were safe.
It is suggested that everyone remain indoors for 1 hour or until further notice. There is no danger.
Don't drop bombs on people and think it's not going to do anything to them. My goodness, it's not rocket science, you know.
I think the government lied to us, and I think that particularly these people deserve some compensation. Whether that was a government policy or not, no, I don't think the government wanted to come out here and cause people a lot of trouble. But I think there were people in the government whose jobs were enhanced by getting something accomplished, and if it cost somebody else some problems, that's tough.
I was contacted by Mrs. Guy in 2013 when I asked and discussed some more of the details of the case, and before even proceeding, I went back and double-checked and triple-checked just to make sure that we weren't missing something, because we had to have been missing something. When they did these tests out in Nevada, this is after Hiroshima and Nagasaki. So we knew full well what would happen when people get exposed to radiation. They're saying, we exposed you to radiation. We quickened your death. We gave you cancer, but we're not going to acknowledge that we did it. The next injustice wherein they actually did finally recognize that, okay, they were the cause of it, and in March 2009, awarded Donald Guy service connection for his cancers, and then they just never paid. They acted as if it never happened.
I had a nervous breakdown. It's been a long time ago. But it was from nothing but being aggravated with the damn government. I hate to say it like that, but that's the cut and dried, that's how I felt about it. But I knew that if I died, I was going to go down fighting if I never got a penny. I'm getting disgusted. I don't think they're going to do anything. I'm being honest. Look how many years it's been. Since 2009. It went to trial in March 2009, and my husband passed away in April 2009. That's a long time to me. And yes, keep sending me these papers stating that they're still working on it. I don't understand it. The only thing I asked him for, and I asked Kabachnik that, Craig, I said, can you just get me an ID card so I can go to base? Maybe I can get things on the base. You can't, not everything, but some things you can get cheaper on the base than you can on the outside. And that's not asking for a whole lot. And I can't even get that. I can't even get where I can drive through the gate to go to where my daddy was buried at over there without having to go to that building over there to get a pass.
The further we get from these exercises, the more relief the VA probably feels that they've gotten away with something. And up until this point, they really have. And it's really up to us. It's up to taxpayers. It's up to people that really don't feel that this is the right thing to do to stand up and say, fix it. It's not too late. There are people that are very sick right now. Mary's very sick. She would really benefit. But overall, it's important for the country to be able to trust their government, and it's really hard to trust a government that would do something so negligently and act as if it didn't happen. For whatever reason, the VA's not all that willing to admit to their errors. I'm more than happy to make them aware of them, though.
To be honest with you, nothing's going to make it right because nothing's going to bring him back. There's not enough money to bring him back. You don't understand. Money don't buy it back. Because I didn't ask them for much and they wouldn't even do that. So what makes you think they're going to offer you 5 cents? I don't want that pen's any good. No, I don't have much ink in it. I'll take it. 4, 5. Hope there's a letter in here.
It is officially over, and she's won exactly what we've been asking for, and that's what she's deserved from the very beginning, and that was every penny that her late husband, Don, had been entitled to from the first application of disability until the time of his death, and then every penny thereafter that she should have been receiving.
To tell you the truth, I really didn't believe it at first. And I guess I was in shock. I cried just about all night long. To be honest with you, I literally cried just about all night long. I couldn't go to sleep. My back was hurting me. I would pray a while and cry a while. And then I would get to thinking about Don. Yeah, that was a little bit of money. A lot of money to me. But Don wasn't here, and no amount they gave me was going to bring Don back.
This isn't a woman that should have been in line waiting for 7 years. This is a woman that had already won. This last 7 years make no mistake about it, was entirely unnecessary.
I had put some people in my family to tell me that I would never, never get a damn cent from the government. Says, I don't care how much you argue with them and how much letters you wrote. I've wrote enough of letters to reach from here to Raleigh and back probably. But they were wrong. I didn't give up. Dear Mary Guy, the following certificate is furnished for your use in obtaining commissary, store, and exchange privilege from the armed forces.
So I spent $48, and then between the medicine and everything else, they poured it in his.
I'm going to get me some bananas.
Mary Guy is an impressive person for what she's done over these years. She has been the one who has really kept this claim going for Don in life and in his death.
I'll tell you one thing, I see something in here that I will be coming back to get when I get moved. There's my favorite brand of toilet tissue.
It's my favorite too. Which one is that?
I'm serious. Charmin, that is my favorite toilet tissue. But I haven't seen no sodas yet. If I got to come in here, I'm getting sodas. I feel relieved that I do not have to argue with the government no more and keep calling them like I'm begging somebody for a piece of bread to eat. Yes, I can feel that I don't have to beg somebody and let them know that I need help. Now that part I can say and tell the truth, because that's what I was doing, literally begging them to help me. No, they're hot. I want a cold one. If it was cold, honey, I'd drink it in a heartbeat.
So she knew in her heart that this is something she needed to do, and she never quit.
I was not looking for one thing from the government, if you want to know the truth about it. I had just about give up, but I was going to fight till I took my last breath. I will say that. I was not going to give up. I was going to go down fighting. What I want to do is get me a place to stay and get back in church.